Welcome to the Vice President of Student Affairs Summit for fall 2025. For those of you joining us online, there is a link to a form to submit any questions you may have for the end of the presentation. It's linked below the Mesa Live video, as well as in the description of the YouTube page video. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit them there. And I will turn it over to Dr. Hollins.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Ooh, thank you for the applause. I feel loved and wanted. I love it. No, thank you. This is an honor to be here before you again, other than what was that, 2 days ago? So I will recap some things that I presented on Friday, but I also want to highlight some opportunities and some initiatives that we have going on this upcoming year in student affairs. But to your surprise, I will not take the entire time. And here's the reason why. Faculty, show of hands of faculty in the room. Okay, so while you were off contract, I had the distinct pleasure to onboard a new DRS director, Ms. Jean Celestine. And so I am going to provide some of my time to her because I think it's important that you put a name and a face with a title and the things that she will be incorporating into DRS and how that aligns with the future state of student affairs. So I will highlight some things in terms of our reorganization, some results of our initiatives, future plans, and then I'm gonna turn it over to her for an opportunity for you to really truly hear how things will be changing in DRS and how we plan to come together and service that particular student population. Is that fair? All right, sounds good. So if you see the slide here before you, this is a definition of student affairs, and I'm not going to read it to you because you're all educators and I believe you can read. What I'm going to do is summarize this. Student affairs, the division of student affairs. The operative word there is student. We are in the business of students. We're in the business of serving students. And so as we move forward with how we are going to advance student affairs right here at Mesa, it's important that I put that out there to you because everything that we do comes from a place of serving our students and their ever-changing needs. And so student initiatives, the slides that you see before you here, new student orientation. So when I arrived about 1.5 years ago, we still had some practices in terms of our COVID practices. And I said, you know what, it's time that we bring it back to in-person, on campus. The rationale behind that were just basically behaviors that I observed with our students and having conversations with our students and really truly hearing some of their expectations and how some of those expectations aligned with our purpose and while others did not. And just the things that we were dealing with, I said it's time that not only do we bring new student orientation back to campus, but we really have an opportunity to get in front of students and talk about what we do, what our roles and responsibilities are. And so we began probably back in May with our on-campus new student orientation sessions. Now again, this is the first time after a while. And so it started off slow. And let me tell you, I had some awesome tri-chairs and just staff throughout student affairs who really came together as a team, collaborated, worked together to really ensure that the on-campus new student experience was something memorable. But again, we started off slow, it was May, and we anticipated the closer we got to the start of the new semester, we would see increased attendance. And let me back up a minute. Last summer, first summer, we have two Saturdays, and some of my staff was like, I don't think we should be open on the first Saturday. And I was like, oh, this is my first summer. I really want to see how things go. Let's find out, let's assess. Why do we have a low volume of students? I observed it last year. They were correct, it was accurate. This year I said, before we make any changes, we're gonna capitalize on that Saturday, those 2 Saturdays. And so we scheduled our new student orientation sessions on the last 2 Saturdays, which this first Saturday being the first Saturday. Now, I see Miss Selena out there in the audience. We started in May. We had some low attendance in the beginning, and I felt bad because my staff did all this work, and they're like, oh. I walked in here on Saturday. In this very room, this room was packed. We had chairs set aside alongside the wall. Don't go and tell anyone, but for a minute there, we were breaking like the fire code because of so many people in here. And so we had to move individuals out into another space so that we can continue to serve them and be in compliance with all the fire codes and all that other stuff. I share that with you because it's the work, it's the change in terms of how we engage our students. We had nearly 300 students here on Saturday. And as a result of that, thank you, nearly 300 students. And enrollment services was kind of slow in the beginning, right? When we first opened the doors. They finished here at New Student Orientation, went over to enrollment services. They serviced nearly 200 students. I think it was 188 students that visited the enrollment services on this past Saturday. So it's the work of change that's leading us in the direction of enrollment increases. And so I share that with you to say that New Student Orientation is only one of many things that Student Affairs will lead, and we will collaborate with Academic Affairs as well as Admin Services to make sure that happens. And so I cannot thank my direct reports and my staff enough for the hard work that they've put into New Student Orientation. I gave them a vision and they carried it out. And I tell you, Saturday was a direct result of collaboration and what we can do when we put our students first when we're having these types of initiatives. So thank you, thank you. Case management. You've heard me speak about case management, and this is the space that we're moving into. And so this year we do have a pilot group. Athletics, international ed, we have disability services, Veterans Affairs. These 5 pilot groups will begin to look at, and we're going to practice more of our student engagement, increase student engagement efforts to really truly attack our retention strategies to increase retention among those particular groups. And we will be working with institutional effectiveness based upon the Council for Advancement of Standards in Higher Ed in terms of practices that will guide some of the things that we'll do. And what you will find in that case management model, they'll obviously be assigned to an individual. We will have a communication timeline in terms of how we're communicating with those individuals, different messages, tracking, monitoring. And I want to say thank you to institutional effectiveness, because I believe someone said, we've never worked this much with student affairs in terms of data. She's laughing over there because that's what she said. And so I point that out because the decisions that are being made in student affairs is data-driven. It is data-driven. Student-centered strategies. This came out about mid-year this past academic year. And so one of the changes that you will see are peak hours in student affairs. Previously, we were doing 2 weeks in August, 2 weeks in January. Effective this past January, we are in peak hours for the entire month. And from Monday through Thursday, we're open from 8 to 6, and Fridays, 8 to 5. And then we have those Saturdays involved. The other piece that is important to note with peak hours are drop-in hours. This is a time where students can drop in, be it virtually or in person, and that is a change. And let me give you some of the why behind that. It's the students that we serve. It's our peak time. Student Affairs has the responsibility to develop our students for the real world. So the example that I always use when I'm speaking about appointment times and peak time are the things that we deal with every day. When you go to your PCP's office, when you visit your dentist, you can't just drop in. You have to schedule an appointment. And we do that during our non-peak times. But during peak times, when you have an emergency, right? So you've got to schedule an appointment, but what happens when there's an emergency? Hence the reason for emergency rooms and urgent cares. So we're modeling that. You have the opportunity to schedule an appointment with the appropriate services, but we're also going to provide walk-in or drop-in hours during certain times of the year. So during peak time, it's only drop-in. During non-peak, we're going to have appointments implemented, but we're still going to also have those drop-in services. Because again, these are the needs of our students. So we have to ensure that the services align with the students' needs. Without doing so, we stand the risk of our students not returning. This is what I know everyone has been waiting for, but let me let me preface this in terms of the Student Affairs Reorganization Plan. I just planned today to highlight some of the things that I shared with you on Friday, More details in terms of the Student Affairs Reorganization Plan will go in the order of Student Affairs hearing it first. It is most appropriate that the division understands what this rollout looks like, what the services entails, what the structure will consist of. So that will be the presentation, Student Affairs and the appropriate stakeholder groups, and then the larger college community will understand what the new organizational structure of Student Affairs will consist of. But if you recall from my presentation on Friday, this is a student-centered reorganization. It is going to reflect how we support our students. It's going to reflect our priorities. We're doing this in terms of the changing higher ed landscape. Again, it supports our broader strategic goals. You will see clearly what area is responsible for the front end of the student life cycle, what's in the middle, and what's on the end. Why do we need to do this as well? We have service gaps. There are service gaps currently right now. As I've previously said on many occasions, we have to focus in more on retention. So you will understand in this new reorganization plan that there will be a retention area that will lead and coordinate the college's retention efforts. There's a shift in our students, in our business, and our industry needs. There's something that's called immediate gratification that they're looking for. They're looking for quick turnarounds. Our structure must be able to support that. I sit in meetings with my colleagues and we get these requests. We just had one yesterday, I believe. And they're looking for these fast turnarounds. The structure that we have within Student Affairs will need to be able to support our industry and business needs. Otherwise, not only will the students go elsewhere, our business partners will seek their services other places as well. So it's important that we are able to be structured so that we are able to support our students as well as our business and community needs. Lastly, or overall, this is for improved operational effectiveness and productivity. We're going to implement more efficient business practices to better serve our students. We're going to steward our resources wisely. This reorganization plan has embedded succession planning in there so that our staff can also grow. I am truly invested and dedicated and committed to our students, but I'm equally committed to our staff and their professional growth and development. And this reorganization plan will offer that for individuals. And there will be clearer position purposes throughout. It's also important that you understand the guiding principles again. I want to repeat that. It was nothing to do with our budget situation that guided this reorganization plan. It was our student and our institutional purpose. That is what guided it. So what are the next steps? More details about this, as I mentioned earlier, will begin with stakeholder groups and student affairs. That's the appropriate thing to do. Once that group has been informed, I will then communicate with the larger college community in terms of what that structure consists of. Important dates, fall 25. Be a lot of communication and preparation and planning going on fall 25. Targeted implementation time is in spring 26. Some of you were here yesterday when Chief Barfus mentioned about the reorganization plan that we are experiencing with campus police. 12 to 18 months, I believe, was the time frame. Please anticipate something very similar with this plan. It takes time to change. It takes time to work out the bugs. So as you see, some other important items here will be a post-implementation assessment committee. That committee will be formed and will exist for at least a year and a half, if not 2 years, to begin to assess the effectiveness of this new reorg. That committee will also identify any gaps and how we plan to resolve those things. So the framework will be set. Those that carry out the day-to-day operations will have an opportunity to voice what's working well, but they'll also have an opportunity to suggest improvements for that space. And understand it will be individuals within all classification levels, primarily in student affairs, but I do plan to reach out to my academic affairs partners so that they also have an opportunity to do a pre and post assessment to say, well, we know this is what our previous experience has been, but let's talk about what this looks like now that we have this new reorganization plan implemented. The second part will be department or office relocation. But that's after, once we get the structure up in place, because it takes time to figure out where people will be positioned and where they will live while they're here. So I do ask for your patience as we're working through office relocation, if it does apply to your particular area. Vision for the future. As I mentioned, this is a student-centered reorganization plan. We'll also be working collectively to really move forward with this with a case management model. And each year we will roll in different groups and we will track our efforts. We'll have an opportunity to really begin to look at launching new programs, research and community partnerships. But I want to say together, we can build a stronger future for our students and our institution. I know change can be difficult and sometimes scary, but I want to extend my sincerest appreciation to those of you who have already came to me with encouraging words about the Student Affairs Reorganization Plan. I really appreciate your support because it is hard, but again, your kind words go a long way. And so I just want to thank you for that before I turn the mic over to our wonderful new DRS director. So thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon. First, let's give another round of applause to Dr. Hollins. She is just such a great visionary leader that we have, and what a blessing to lead with you. One of the things I've done with my colleagues is really to embrace, because I see her vision, and I think this is what this campus needs. And I've been here for a very short time, but what she has in mind, student-centered, the future of our students, the future of our community. We all have, if we all jump and be behind her, this is what this community really needs. Sometimes I see, whether it's staff or colleagues, bringing a student from one area to another, and they come and just go, hey, disability services, help this student. I'm like, well, that question or that simple ask could have been addressed right there. We don't have to ask a student in 10 buildings to really address like simple issues. So really what you're trying to do, Dr. Hollins, is what our community needs. It's what our students need. Now, that's not part of my presentation, but we're gonna plug in this little guy here. I usually travel. If we have a handheld mic in a room, that would be wonderful. If you don't mind if I use it, please. Again, my name is Jeanne I am the Director of Disability Services. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you so much. And it's on. So I've been here for 3 months now. Today's the 19th or 18th? 19th, exactly 3 months in disability services. So it is such an honor to see all of you come back. I feel like when on the 19th you were leaving on your vacation and I was coming right in and it was so quiet, it was driving me a little crazy. I love seeing people, I love seeing our colleagues on campus, I love seeing our students. It just makes this place lively. And that to me, it's what keeps me going. One of the things that I really want to focus on is not only disability services, but also to think in a bigger picture of what it looks like when it comes to giving our students the support that they need. Our student, if the goal is to retain students and have them complete their program and graduate, we have to do more than just a devising or just creating academic plan. Or having them sit in your classrooms. I have a track record of really having such a large group of students graduate or complete or stay in the school. And one of the things I've done was to just really sit and ask a few questions. How can I help you? What's going on in your life than just getting you in a class? I come from Texas. My husband graduated from law school, and he said, well, we're going to move to Arizona. And I said, you're going to have to convince me why I am picking up and moving to Arizona. And he gave me, as a lawyer, very convincing. He wrote 10 things to convince me why I should move up to Arizona with our 8-year-old son. And one of them was the 365 day of sunshine and how people are happier here and how it's wonderful, how it's beautiful, more relaxed, more chilled people. And I said, okay, that sounds all right, I'm going. Then May hit, I was like, oh man, this is hot. And I also realized a lot of people here have anxiety. I don't know if it's the water that we drink around here. I don't know if you all are extremely busy. I'm not quite sure what it is. And I'm not talking about my students. I'm like, come on, just calm down. Everything's going to be all right. There's a sense of urgency, which is, for me, I am a genocide survivor. So when nobody's dying, everything is good. If nobody's dying, life is good. I survived the genocide in 1994 over Rwanda and happened to write a book about it. Fun fact, which is going to lead to disability services in a minute. How many of you know that 1 month and 1 year was ADA? When did it become a law? And by the way, English is my 5th language, so if I'm butchering English, that's why. 1 month and 1 year was ADA enacted. July 1990, guess what? He gets to get a copy of my book. Yes, autographed by me. Do you know what president signed that into law? He was in my presentation, so I'm not going to let him do that to me. Do you know what president? Bush won. And guess what? Fun fact, historian in the room here? Anybody who teaches history? Nerds? History nerds? Bush, too, back in 2020, he reaches out to me and he said, I will be honored to have dinner with you and your husband. I say, me? I'm just academic advisor. And he said, I'll be honored to have dinner with you. And then we had dinner. He came, him and his wife. But little did I know, his father actually signed ADA into law in 1990, July. And so he paints my portrait. He has his own book, and he has my story in his own book. But I get to give Karim, my buddy, a signed copy of my own. But now, ADA has been around for so many years, right? And the fact that it's been around for so many years, it gets better and better. There's addendum to it. There is students are savvy finding it. Our students, and hopefully you are doing the research as well. Since I came to Arizona, since I've been in my office actually, I have had at least between 3 to 4 ADA complaints, not under me. Previously, from 2020, 2022, 2023, and there's one under me, but I have never had ADA complaint in my entire life, and I've been doing disability services for a very long time. Now, what shocks me is when I read the response between instructor and the student, because as I have to respond to the investigators, our district investigators, the civil rights investigators, I have to read all that paperwork. And when I read, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe somebody sat there and typed up and sent to the student. Evidence is right there. Violation, discrimination of ADA. And so as a community, I know we can do better. I know we can support our students in a way. There's a way of denying an accommodation without, basically criminalizing yourself, right? There's a way to say, I'm not going to give you this thing, but let's work around it. And by working around it, it means, please, I don't know if you've ever met anybody who asks you to be your best friend the first time. That's going to be me. I want all of you to have a partnership with us, because as we partner, we can make this better for our students. I don't know if anybody has ever had ADA complaint under your name or your department. It's not fun. It really is not fun. Having to address, you're busy teaching your students, by having to pull yourself into a position when you're responding to ADA complaints, it takes time. You have to wait for the outcome from the district to say, hey, you've done everything under the sun to address this issue. Or you basically killed it and you said the things that you shouldn't have, said. And then there's, consequences to that too. And so I have a PowerPoint. I hate PowerPoints. But I really, truly believe that when I had my master's degree, it was in public administration, public policy, and I thought I was going to save the world. That was my angle. And by saving the world, I have two passions. So I'm a chair for the UN, human rights. That's something I do just for fun. Europe is like, I think 9 hours behind us or ahead of us. So they usually call me in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, or the weekends is gone. But I truly believe that human rights, our student having access in our classrooms is a human right. It is a human right for them to be able to sit in our classrooms and achieve their dreams, achieve their goals. Just like all of us, we are here because there was somebody who championed us. Is that true? We had somebody behind us. We had a professor who believed in us. For me, in particular, I was that kid. My parents were dead in 1994, genocide. But the people who believed me were the people who actually got me where I am, were the professors who gave, the teachers and professors who gave me encouragement, who believed in my dreams. Our students with disability, whether they have a disability or not, they need that support from you. They need that someone to believe in them, that they can be somebody. Many of our students, especially those with disability, I had an intake a couple weeks ago, and one of my students comes in and say, I was like, man, you almost like missed the appointment. And the student shared with me that he sat outside in the parking for at least 2 hours. Heavily medicated. Why? Because he was so nervous to walk and come and sit in my office. So I share that to say that we're dealing with students who have a lot of things going on in their lives. And sometimes because of, again, with COVID being a real thing. Our students have a lot of anxiety because they haven't really had a chance to interact the same way we've always interacted, right? So this student takes a medication in order to come and see me. And one of the things I want you to understand is that while we do require medical paperwork for our students to be accommodated, many of our students don't have the kind of money to actually provide the paperwork that is required. Some of our students have, if you talk about psychological evaluation in order to accommodate, whether they have ADHD or autism or whatever mental health is happening in their life, in their body, sometimes they have to go to a doctor to have a psychological evaluation. And those psychological evaluation for someone who might not have insurance could be between $3,000 to $5,000. And I don't know about you, I don't have the $5,000 to go see a doctor. So we have many students who do not have accommodations actually because of the lack of funding. And so I ran, and thank you, Trish. You're amazing. I've been bugging her. As Dr. Hollins mentioned, case management, which I tell my team this. That case management thing did not come from Dr. Hollins. That's my way of doing things. And my team were like, what? Yes, case management is the way, if we know how many students that we're dealing with, then we can actually check and see, are they really getting the accommodations that we can provide, academic accommodations? I had my wonderful colleague, Sharita. I made everybody make phone calls. We had we ran a report, and again, thanks to Tricia, we had about 700 plus students with disability. So we started making phone calls. That's a lot, right? We started making phone calls to say, hey, renew your accommodations. Yesterday, as we were sending out our faculty letters of notification, I keep butchering this because here they call it FNL. If you has anybody in here received their faculty letters of, yep, they're coming through. So we had this morning we have about 571 letters of notification to go out. I think we have 133 right now left. So we are working hard in the background, but to have people embrace that these are the things that we need to do, it takes leaders that would champion what Dr. Hollins was talking about. Just to get the job done, to embrace it. Because what makes me sad is that we have students who have gone to the extent of getting, these evaluation, but they're not getting the accommodations. Sometimes they forget, like all of us, right? If you have a million things happening in your life, maybe renewing accommodation is not one of the things, on the high. We want them to be responsible, but sometimes a little bit of a reminder is what they need. I was chatting with my colleague at the Glendale. She said, your numbers are higher than our numbers because our team is working very hard to ensure that our students really are getting the accommodations that they need. Now, I talked about partnership. We cannot do this by ourselves. I want all of you to know that we have open door policy. If you receive accommodations and they might seem a little strange, they might not make any sense, please communicate with me. Communicate with our team. Usually, the email you receive will have students' information, the person who sent that email to you, you have their email address. But if you've been dealing with even one of my colleagues and you don't understand, please reach out to me. It's my responsibility to ensure that I give you the support that you need. If accommodations, again, don't make sense, we can explain. I'll share a list of things that we usually accommodate. I also would encourage you to, if a student self-identify, we cannot go around poking and going I think maybe there's a disability there. No, we can't do that. But the minute they say, I have something, maybe I received accommodations in high school, or I am so depressed, or I have PTSD, those keywords, make sure that you're sending them to our area so we can give them the support that they need. We have, our community is hurting, y'all. That's my Texas accent. On top of my 5 languages they speak. Our students are going through life as many of us are, and so to have a compassion that embodies humanity is the right thing to do. And some of our students that really being in your classroom is their escape. I have a student who has stage 4 cancer, and I get to read the paperwork. I might need to sign up for counseling from my department, and I'm so grateful that we have the counseling in our area. Stage 4 cancer, but I said, you want to take a little bit of a break and maybe take these classes after you go through this chemo? She said, no. What keeps me sane is the fact that I can see people, that I can go and sit in a classroom and work towards my dream. And she said, I am the first one to graduate in my family. Not only high school, but to graduate with an associate degree. So her mission is to change the trajectory of her whole family. And she's not giving up even when she has a cancer stage 4. So as you work with your students, just be mindful that many of them are going through a lot of challenges, just like all of us. We have, now we do accommodate, students who are pregnant as well. If it's a high-risk pregnancy, those students will be accommodated. But don't even worry, you don't have to ask paperwork. I get to ask paperwork. And I have to make sure that the doctor signs off that it's not a balloon in the belly and they're pretending or anything like that. So we make those students go through the paperwork in order to be accommodated. We also have students, because we are open institution, a public institution. Bless you. There's one thing that I've learned here which actually surprised me, is that for placement test is open. Like students can take it at home. I was like, what? In Texas, where I came from, placement test to get you to college level, you have to take it in testing center. And by the way, it's free here. In Texas, you have to pay for it. If you don't pass the first time, you pay for it again. If you don't pass the second round, pay it again. So many students will not have multiple attempts like they do here, but here it's open, they can take it at home. It's free, which is wonderful. But also that raises a bit of concerns. You're going to have students who might not even be college level in your classrooms, but they try so hard, they try multiple times because they didn't have to pay for it. We'd also have to be, again, mindful that we are open public institution. I had a professor one time who told me, please come and get that student out of my class. And I said, because the student wasn't really doing college level, right? They were failing English class, and she said, I need you to come and get that student out of my class. I said, I have a lot of power under ADA, but removing any student out of your class is not one of the powers that I hold. Because we are open public institution. There's a reason why the placement test got that student in your class. Now, besides the placement test, sometimes you have a student who has a disability. When I look at the numbers of the students that we are accommodating, majority of our students have autism, ADHD. And sometimes those students, because of the chemistry in their bodies, they might be shifting, they might be not focusing 100%, like your 90 minutes, they might not be like 100% on you, they might be doing other things. And so really to work with them, if you have a faculty letter of notification coming from disability services, that tells you that student has already gone through the process to get the help that they need. You cannot ask them what disability that they have, why they behave the way they do. I had a young man a couple weeks ago. I was doing an intake appointment online, virtual, and oh boy, usually our intake takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I felt like it was forever. He would get up and do a Zoom in his chair. He would get up and just walk away, and I'm like, hey, buddy, get back here. But we have to understand that it's not because he's choosing to be disruptive or not focus and be with me for that intake appointment. His brain chemistry is doing that. That's his body. He's unable to focus, but then we have to give that grace to work with him to make sure that he's getting the support that he needs. You might have students in your classroom who are going to need breaks from your class. Why? Because if they stay in your class for too long, you've lost them. So if we accommodate for breaks, it's not because those students are lazy or they just want to be disruptive. They really want that little bit of a break. Some of our students who have, again, autism, they get stimulated. And if it's loud in your class, they actually usually would accommodate headphones. And if they don't have headphones, or even if they have headphones, it might be overwhelming that all they need is probably 2 minutes. Or you might have a student stand up because that's what they need in order to actually get to refocus back to in your class. So again, I would encourage you to really be my friend. It sounds strange that I'm asking to have a friendship, but I also believe that for us to stay compliant, we need to work together. We have to work together in order to avoid having ADA complaints. I've responded to a couple. It's not fun, and I don't want you to be in a situation where you're responding to ADA. Your focus should be just, continue to do what you do in your classroom. Let me take a peek and see. One more reminder here. When your first week, if you could please, when you're sharing your syllabus, make sure you have a verbiage that says, kind of talks about disability services. Because many of our students might not know that we actually have, that we exist. You might have students, I have students who have been here since 2014. They've been taking 2 classes, they fail 1, and they try again, or they make like a D. In Texas, D is a D for diploma. Here it's not a thing, so which is great. Make them work for the grade. But we have students who have been trying for so many years. So when you have the syllabus that states that disability services, that also covers you. Not only do you share the information that we do exist, that we're here to support them academically, it also gives them, some of our students might not know that we are here, right down the street here, few buildings, 1 building actually. But once they know, you will see the difference that it makes in their lives. I have students who have been trying forever to do this academic thing by themselves. And some of them had a 1.2 GPA, and then they get accommodation to test in a quiet room, testing center. Now these students are graduating on top of their classes. It's those little small things that we do that make such a huge difference in our students' lives. So when you look at a student who's failing your class, you can ask the simple question: what's the barrier? What is happening? How can I help you? And if they mention anything, I'm struggling because of these reasons, if it has anything to be, being a diagnosis, you can gently remind them to come and see disability services. Again, if anybody self-identifies, we have a responsibility to give them the resources that they need, and that resources is just disability services so that they can get the help that they need. I know we talked in your meetings, you probably have been told that if your students miss a certain number of days, that you're supposed to drop them. We have students who are actually by ADA law that are accommodated for flexible attendance. If you didn't know that, you have students who are accommodated who have flexible or modified attendance or modified assignments. So before you drop those students, we're probably going to have to reinstate them once you drop them. I would say, yes, if you reach out to them and crickets, send like 3 emails and nothing, you have the rights to do as you wish as instructor, as a professor in your class. But please make sure that you have shown that you made an attempt to reach out to that student before you drop them. Because once a student gets dropped, as you know, it affects their financial aid. It also affects their, if they get W's, it's better, I tell students, hey, it's better to get a W than F's, but it also, that affects their financial aid because their uh, completion rate is gonna be lower. So before you drop a student who has modified attendance or disability-related absence, please communicate with us because we want to cover ourselves, and by covering ourselves, we have to show the investigators what we have done to mitigate that issue. We have reached out multiple times, and there's no response from the students. We cannot just like, boom, you dropped. Then we have to deal again with reinstating our students. The goal is that if we keep in mind that retention is what we're trying to get to, and being student-centered, if that's the goal, we really have to do more than just, hey, one conversation, it's a warning, you done, you out of here. There's a whole lot of efforts, I believe, that go. I used to be, again, a former academic advisor. There's so much effort that goes into getting a student to come and be on our campus. And I told Dr. Hollins that you might not think it this way, but these students are here. We're competing with other colleges. Those students could have been anywhere else in the world, but they choose to be here. I love when I meet people who have gone here as students and they're coming back and they're working, whether it's IT. I met many ITs who have graduated from here. I also love when I see our students who have disability saying like the help that you have provided is what got me to graduate, and now I am, pursuing a bachelor's degree somewhere else. So I know there's a lot. I'll share my contact information. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. If I was Oprah with that, 571 emails that we sent this morning, or that's the population of 700 plus students. If I was Oprah, instead of passing cars, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, I'll be saying, you get a student, you get a student, you get a student. So we have, if the math landed, perfect, if we have 700 plus students, and we have about 298, I think, full-time instructors, I think that's the number you shared, right? If we have 298 full-time faculty, every single one of you will probably be getting at least like 2 to 3 students. That's just a given. So if you don't have a student with disability, you will in the future. And if you haven't had one, if you received a faculty letter of notification from Disability Services for your first time, please work with us so that way we make sure that our students are being accommodated. I appreciate you. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but if you have any question, I would love to address those. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Jean, you have questions from online. Oh. Often accommodations for one student ends up improving the experience of all students. What are your thoughts about accommodating all students to the greatest degree?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much. I did not know that I was online. I didn't know that I was available online, y'all. Okay. That's a brilliant question. I have instructor John who say brilliant with capital B. If you accommodate a student who does not have who have not made disability services, you're actually selling them off, up for failure. Because while you're being generous and doing the thing you're supposed to do and giving them accommodations, the next professor might not accommodate that student. So it's best that they come to us, go through the interactive process, so that way that they have a documented disability. Because then we're not trying, students are begging their professors, well, my other professor did this. And if you do it for one, you have to do it for all. That's the problem. And if you're not doing it for all, it's not equity, right? I have right now a student who has FORPA, and by the way, don't communicate with parents if they don't have a FORPA form on file, because that's a violation of ADA too. I have a student whose mom is communicating, reaching out to professor because she wants to be in a classroom with her son to remind him about behavior. If that instructor approves that, that means you're opening your classroom. You have it's up to your discretion. It's your classroom. You can do whatever you want. But if you approve that parent to come in, you better be opening it up to all the parents who want to come in. Aunties and uncles, they can come and sit in your classroom because you opened it for one. So yeah, let them come to us, go through the process. Once they have the accommodations, those accommodations are good until they graduate and out here. So they don't have to go through an interactive process at all. It happens once, and they can just go in and renew those accommodations every year. I have students who have, their paperwork is good for between 5 years to 7 years. Great question. Any other questions? Good questions. Yes, Kareem.
Thank you. As an instructor, I totally understand, and obviously will be more than happy to provide any accommodations that have come through your office. You did mention that some people can't get diagnoses. What if, what would you say is the best way to handle a situation where there is a student who is, you could probably tell they have ADHD. They're just showing those symptoms clearly, but they don't have a diagnosis. They don't have an accommodation, and they are maybe starting to disrupt the class. And even when you try to work with them and speak with them and about that, what do you suggest we come to you or what would you suggest in that type of situation?
Another good question. So we have those scenarios, they happen in our office a lot because it's expensive. It's expensive for students to actually, to find funding to address those evaluation. But there's scholarships. We have a list of psychologists that would actually do it for less. So those resources are there. There's also scholarships that our students can apply into within. We have those resources so they can get the help that they need. I work with our students because by ADA policy, if we're going to send you to approve accommodations, if we do not have the paperwork on file, we're actually violating ADA as well. So we have to make sure that the documentation came from a doctor that states that this student has this diagnosis, and these are the barriers, and that's how you're going to meet those, to help that student with those barriers as well. So there's funding, there's resources that we can connect our students to. Now, we also do provide, I want to preface this, but I don't usually tell the community that we do this. If a student comes in and they have an emergency, let's say somebody had an accident, maybe they broke their arm and they need somebody to write for them, I can give them a temporary accommodations until they go through the paperwork. I can give them between 30 days. Usually 30 days is the cutoff, so that way they have a chance to get the paperwork in place. If we stretch it, I can give 60 days of accommodation until they work through. But this is like, interactive between the students. Maybe the doctor doesn't want to sign the verification form for us. We work with our students at every stage to make sure that they actually have the support that they need. After 60 days, I usually go like, sorry, we can't accommodate past this, so you have to find paperwork.
May I add to that also? Because you had mentioned that the behavior might be disrupted to the classroom. Simultaneously to working with disability resources, I would also recommend that you submit a care referral for that student. The care referrals will be reviewed by the behavioral intervention team, which includes a member of counseling representation, DRS representation, as well as conduct and college police. This is our behavioral intervention team, and we'll have other sessions later in the month to learn more about that. But I share that with you because collectively we can come together and discuss alternative ways to support the student and the faculty member while the student is engaged in the interactive process with DRS. So sometimes you have to manage it multiple ways simultaneously, especially if it gets to the point where you do feel like it's becoming a disruption in your classroom. There are ways for us to mitigate that with the resources that we have.
That's great. Thank you. Yes.
Another question from online. Since autism and ADHD are so common in our student population, could DRS please offer workshops for employees to learn how to best serve our students?
I'm going to say a yes. Yes, we can. Of course we can, right? One of the things I've done when I was in Texas, I invited a group of experts who are in Divergent, right? And they came in and they did the training. I think we need it here. Because a lot of times we are dealing with not only ADHD and autism, but we also have students who have other mental health that you might benefit from by knowing how to address those concerns. We have students who have bipolar, schizophrenia, and sometimes you might find a student, they're just like speaking to, they're looking at a wall and they're speaking to, on whatever that's happening, their chemistry happening in their brains, they're just speaking to the wall. And a lot of times I've had police being called that the student is actually like doing something strange. They have episodes, y'all. That's an episode that they're having. They don't behave like that every single day. And there's no need to call the police. If they're not hurting anybody, if they're not disrupting anyone, but they're just somehow having that moment of they just want to speak to the wall, let them speak to the wall. Yeah. Because again, that's a diagnosis. It's not because they're trying to, misbehave or speak to the wall, or walk around like a million times and they're doing this and that, and that's what's going on. I did 3.5 years of medical school and I quit. So what's happening internally is causing them to behave the way they are behaving. And if they're not hurting anyone really, give them that grace, or maybe ask, what's going on? What's happening? Can I help you? It's the simplest thing that we could do as people to really support our students and, have them walk out of here and be part of our community. One of the things that makes me feel better, and the reason I choose to serve in disability services, is that I want to make sure that I have a bit of an impact in the journey of our students. We have a secure future if our community is educated. If they get the support they need from us, we can just have feel peace that they will take care of us. Eventually, I don't know about you, but I just turned 40 and I'm feeling like, oh, whoa, yeah, it's hard. So, but having a secure future, it begins with our youth. If we can pour into them, they're going to pour into us and their communities. They're going to change their societies and the world in some shape or form. Yes, you have another question? No questions. I may now jump off because I'm going to send those FNLs. Well, thank you so much again for working with me. I'm looking forward to a fun fall. We do the hard thing, then we can relax a little bit. And again, if nobody's dying, we're good.
So that will actually conclude the presentation for Student Affairs. I do want to put a plug in for our Compliance Roadshow. Are we still calling it the Compliance Roadshow? Okay, yes. So this year we will resume with our Compliance Roadshow. What does that consist of? DRS, student conduct, BIT. So it's important that if your schedules permit, please attend, because these are tools and resources and just overall education that we want to provide to our faculty and our staff as you're encountering various situations, particularly with our students. So again, I want to thank you for your time and support. And again, we are about to embark upon another great academic year. So I want to thank you for your time and attention. Do good things. Thank you.